I call the meeting back to order. So is it the pleasure of the committee to take into consideration the estimates of the Department of Social Development? All those in favor, please say yea. All those opposed, nay. I declare the motion carried. I would now ask the clerk assistant to read the votes.
Page 147, main estimates 2016-2017, Department of Social Development, ordinary account, corporate and other services, $11,695,000. Child welfare and youth services, $123,483,000. Long-term care, $656,891,000. Income security, $241,127,000. Housing services, $88,220,000. Wellness, $7,307,000. Other benefits, $35,700,000. Total Department of Social Development to be voted, $1,164,376,000. Page 151, loans and advances. Housing total to be voted, $3,224,000. Page 22, working capital maximum balances. Working capital advances, $1,900,000. Petty cash advances, $24,000. Inventories, $100,000.
Thank you so much. I would now invite the Minister for her opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm pleased to present the budgetary estimates for the Department of Social Development for fiscal 2016-17. I would like first to introduce the staff members here with me today. Joining me today are Deputy Minister Craig Dalton, Lisa Doucette, who is the Assistant Deputy Minister for Program Design and Quality Management, Emily Deschênes, the Director of Community and Individual Development, Bill Innes, the Director of Child Welfare and Youth Services, Joan McGowan, the Director of Long-Term Care and Disability Support, Janet Thomas, the Director of Nursing Home Services, Kim Embleton, the Assistant Deputy Minister of Corporate Services, Yvonne Sampson, Director of Finance and Administration, Manon Daigle, Director of Human Resources, and Jean Rioux, the Assistant Deputy Minister of Program Delivery. Mr. Chairman, staff at the department is committed to doing the very best for the citizens of New Brunswick. I thank them for their hard work, dedication, and commitment. At Social Development, we strive to offer programs and services that are designed to meet the changing needs of New Brunswickers, those which promote movement towards independence, improve the quality of life, and protect our most vulnerable. Our employees understand that in order to make New Brunswick the best place to raise a family, we must be responsive to the needs of children, seniors, families, and persons with disabilities. New Brunswickers clearly asked us to protect their priority interests, health and education. Mr. Chair, in these introductory remarks, I will speak to some level of detail about 3 of Social Development's initiatives, among many. I'm very pleased to say today that in Social Development, we are investing more money in both senior care and in social programs for persons with disabilities. This budget is a reflection of our government's commitment to enhancing services available to New Brunswick's most vulnerable citizens. Mr. Chairman, I'm proud that this year, Social Development's overall budget will increase by $50.7 million to a new total of $1.16 billion. Even during these challenging fiscal times, our government is making record investments that enhance services delivered to children, families, seniors, and people with disabilities. A client-focused department, we exist to provide supports and services for people who are in need. We care about their concerns. Social development delivers over 50 programs to our province's most vulnerable citizens. And many of these services are delivered through partnerships with both other government departments and community-based service providers. We value these partners, and we are committed to continuing to working collaboratively with them. Mr. Chairman, I would now like to say that it is past due for us to prepare for the realities of an aging population. Therefore, I will speak to a couple of initiatives that our government is undertaking. First, we have created a Council on Aging. The mandate of this council will be to develop, in collaboration with government and our community partners, an aging strategy that can take us to our vision for excellence in aging. Mr. Chairman, I had the pleasure of announcing the co-chairs and members of this council earlier this week. Under the leadership of two most competent, capable, caring, and visionary co-chairs, the members of the council bring a wealth of knowledge, experience, and a broad range of perspectives to their task. I'm most honored to report that there in fact was a tremendous response from New Brunswickers interested in contributing to this important work and to serving on this council. I really want to thank all those who put their names forward for consideration. And while we could not practically include the over 125 applicants, these persons have been invited to remain engaged. The Council is being asked to recognize the short-term challenges facing our province, while also addressing the need for long-term, transformational change, as well as the sustainability that our long-term care system needs. The strategy is intended to act as a broad-based framework that will guide our approach to aging in New Brunswick. The scope of this strategy is to reach beyond government services and public policy to frame the roles and responsibilities of all stakeholders, including individuals, families, communities, service providers, researchers, businesses, and nonprofit organizations. It will also reach beyond the care continuum and provision of supports and services to a broader view of the aging experience, including health and wellness, family and social life, community participation, lifelong learning, employment, income, housing, and food security. These are all areas that impact the healthy aging of individuals and thereby our society as a whole. Mr. Chair, by design, there will be opportunities for citizens and stakeholder organizations to engage in the work of the Council. Details of how this participation will unfold will be provided once the Council begins its work. New Brunswick is facing challenges with its increasingly aged population. However, the new aging strategy has the potential to position our province as a national leader in care for the aged. We need to strengthen our continuum of care to ensure that our long-term care system meets the needs of seniors both today and tomorrow. The aging strategy will build on a variety of initiatives now underway. These include the Home First strategy, the Wellness strategy, and the Alternative Level of Care Action Plan currently being developed by the Departments of Health and Social Development. Mr. Chairman, the Department will invest an additional $5.5 million for the province-wide expansion of the Rapid Rehabilitation and Reablement initiatives. This aims to help seniors leave the hospital sooner or avoid hospitalization altogether by offering intensive rehabilitation and reablement services in the community or at home. An additional $1 million will be invested in the province-wide expansion of the new nursing home technology tool, commonly inside known as RAIMDS, and the related initiatives that are aimed at strengthening person-centered care. Mr. Chair, we want a responsive, integrated, and sustainable system where seniors are active and engaged in their communities, and where the right care, supports, and services are available at the right time. The second point I would like to highlight in these introductory remarks is our strong commitment to the valuable work performed by our human service sector workers in the supporting of and caring for seniors and adults with disabilities. Their hard work, dedication, and commitment to serving the needs of the most vulnerable are greatly respected. And that is why Social Development has committed an additional $10 million to increase the per diems to special care homes and memory care homes in order to facilitate an increase to the hourly rate paid to family support agencies and to ADAPT agencies. This $1 per hour wage raise for these workers will come into effect April 1st. Mr. Chair, the third item I want to bring to everyone's attention is that also as of April 1st, Social Development will create 30 new portable rent subsidies for people with disabilities. Portable rent subsidies enable and empower persons with disabilities to obtain affordable, adequate, and personally suitable rental accommodations. Mr. Chairman, portable rent supplements are assigned to a person rather than to a landlord. The program's main objective is to provide eligible individuals the freedom to choose housing that meets their specific needs. I know that providing autonomy, agency, and support like these portable rent supplements do goes a long way to ensuring respect and dignity for people with disabilities, values that our government holds dear. The department will work very closely with all 8 regions in order to determine the provincial distribution of these new portable rent subsidies. Allocations will be based on a case-by-case basis and need. Mr. Chairman, in closing, Social Development is committed to ensuring that all New Brunswick citizens receive the basic services, supports, and assistance they require. This budget includes important investments that will allow the department to move forward in its mission to be client-focused and that seeks to be sensitive, responsive, and encouraging to the most vulnerable in our society. I have highlighted 3 areas of increased investments with the creation of a Council on Aging, the $10 million investment in wages for family support workers, and the creation of 30 new portable rent supplements for people with disabilities. I now look forward to answering questions from members of the opposition parties about the important work carried out 365 days a year by the hard-working men and women employed by the Department of Social Development. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. I now recognize the member from Moncton Northwest.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, to the Minister, to your staff. There's a lot of you. I'm glad this isn't a knife fight or anything, because you guys would have us beat to pieces. Although, Dorothy, you can scrap, eh? Thank you very much for your statement. Thank you very much for your remarks, for the hard work of the department. I know some of you, a few of you, and I know you are working hard for the people who are in need of the services of social development in the province. I guess, seeing as over half of this document was about the Council on Aging, Mr. Speaker, or Mr. Chair, we'll start there. Who's overseeing the monetary aspect of the Council on Aging? Which minister?
The answer to this question would be the Department of Social Development.
Thank you to the Minister through the Chair. And how much is going to be spent on it?
Mr. Chair, to the member opposite, I would respond that there's no specific allocation in the budget for this council. However, the Department of Social Development will cover per diem expenses for the 2 co-chairs and expenses because the council members are volunteer positions.
Okay, what line in the budget, where's it coming out of the budget, Mr. Chair, to the minister? I guess the monies.
These monies would come out of the Home First budget.
To the minister through the chair, who decided on who would sit on the committee?
To the member opposite, through the chair, we followed the same process that we would follow for other agencies, boards, and commissions, and through a call for expression of interest that the department had put out, we received applications and we made the decisions and chose the council members in the same process that we would choose other agency, board, and commission members.
Thank you for that. So you say in the same process. Now, how does that process work? Is it the minister, the deputy minister together, a number of you? Just how does it work?
Okay, Mr. Chair, for the member opposite. Again, the call was put out for expressions of interest province-wide, and we received a tremendous response, almost 130 applications, and staff reviewed every single application and put together a recommendation to the minister, and together we made a choice based on the perspectives that were called for the whole team, for the complement for the council that we needed to put a good team together. So, for example, we had advertised the need for perspectives in this area, another area, and so these were reviewed and weighted, and that's how the decision was made.
But there was no, but you didn't want anybody from the New Brunswick Association of Nursing Homes, and one of your co-chairs said yesterday they decided not to choose or select representatives in leadership roles from any professional organization in the province, including the New Brunswick Medical Society and Nurses Association of New Brunswick. What's the reason for that?
Okay, Mr. Chair, to the member opposite, we are very pleased with the complement that we have for the council members under the direction of very competent, well-respected co-chairs, and exactly how we had hoped that the process would unfold, did unfold, where we sought a variety of perspectives to come to the table. This, of course, is not a council of stakeholder groups, because as I did explain in my introductory remarks, the council will continue to work, as the department has in the past, with the with the stakeholders of the community, and the council will work with government to develop this strategy. So under the direction of two very good, very competent, visionary, well-qualified, and well-respected co-chairs, the members, which bring a variety of perspectives, will work together with community stakeholders such as the one that you raised, and others who are also not as stakeholder groups represented on the council group. Thank you.
All right, so you chose specifically not to have stakeholder groups. They will be involved in the process, though, but you chose specifically not to have them. That's right.
Can I just get the question clarified, please?
I guess, yeah, you chose specifically not to have stakeholder groups immediately involved, in the first degree, immediately involved in this, that you wanted them to keep them at a bit of an arm's length, or maybe that's not the right term, because I don't want it to sound bad, but you wanted them not directly involved in the council?
Well, maybe just to clarify, in the original expression of interest that went out, we called for persons to apply to participate on the council, and we clearly stated that we're looking for a variety of perspectives, including seniors, families, health professionals, caregivers, academics and researchers, nonprofit organization, business, labor, municipality, First Nations. And so we looked for a group that could together bring these perspectives to the table. Of course, as we're developing a strategy on aging, we want to make sure that any voices that could come from these perspectives are not overlooked. And this council will work with community stakeholders and with government at the table. Thank you.
And you didn't find, through the chair to the minister, I guess, and it was not found necessary or that you would want the input from the New Brunswick Association of Nursing Homes or the New Brunswick Medical Society, the Nurses Association, those wouldn't have been a help to you?
We are going to continue very much working with the stakeholders, but there are literally dozens and dozens of these kinds of groups that we, had we sought stakeholder groups to be forming the council, but what we did was we sought individuals who bring sometimes even a personal familial experience to the council. So we're very, very pleased with the full complement that has come forward. Again, like I said, there was an overwhelming response to the expression of interest that we called for, and I'm very pleased that New Brunswickers stepped up to the table. I wish we could have taken more, because more people believe that they have some great things to offer. And in fact, when we sent letters out to individuals to inform them that they were part of the council, or that, you know, thank you for your expression of interest, but this time you're not part of it, we also left the invitation open that we would love to have you continue to speak to the strategy on aging that will be developed. So we're very, very pleased that we indeed did find individuals to come forward to bring perspectives for seniors, families, health professionals, caregivers, academics and researchers, nonprofit organizations, business, labor, First Nations. So we did get the perspectives that we sought, and again, under the direction of two very well-respected, competent co-chairs. And remember too, I might say that the vision that has been developed to a large degree has been informed by these stakeholder groups, and so it's important, and we remain committed to continuing working with these stakeholder groups to help us develop a roadmap to achieve that vision.
Thank you to the Minister, through the Chair, for that answer. I still find it, I guess, odd that we wouldn't involve the Association of Nursing Homes, the New Brunswick Medical Society, the Nurses Association, the Federation of Seniors, who we heard from yesterday on the news, who were upset about that. But we did involve a member who is on the Seniors Commission for the New Brunswick Liberal Association. We also involved the CEO of the Loch Lomond Villa, and we involved somebody who is listed in Brian Gallant's leadership contributions as the largest single contributor, giving $6,000. Was this, were these partisan? I mean, did you look at things for nonpartisan activities? Or did we just look at the Liberals?
To the Chair, for the member opposite, I just want to reiterate that the stakeholders who have been our partners in the past will continue to be our partners in the future, and we are very committed to developing a strategy on aging, which will be the first time we've ever done this in the province of New Brunswick. I think it's a great move. We've been able to draw the expression of interest from so many highly qualified people that it was really difficult to even make the choices on who to include. But you can always make comparisons of, you know, one person maybe should have been chosen over another person. We had to seek a complementary group so that we have all the perspectives brought to the table. And of course, we can't work with a number 50. So I feel very, very positive that we have, under the direction of, again, two very highly qualified co-chairs who are researchers, academics, great experience, and of course, we've got people at the table who have experience with nursing homes and with all kinds of other pieces that have to be considered in the development of an aging strategy. And again, through the chair to the member opposite, it was a difficult decision, but this was a choice among individuals who applied to serve or who expressed an interest to serve on this innovative first-time action plan to move us forward for excellence in aging. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, for the answer through the chair. We all want to work with partners from the past and partners in the future. And I don't want to read too much into it, but I assume that you still will consider them, the Nursing Association, Nursing Home Association, and Federation of Seniors, to be partners from the past and the future. In your opening remarks, you mentioned that of the 125 applications, you can only choose so many. Absolutely, I understand that. But you said these persons, the ones who have not been selected, have been invited to remain engaged. How will that happen?
Thank you for the question. Even in the letters that were sent out to all applicants, those who were not ultimately chosen to be on the council, we explained to them that we want them to remain engaged, and we said further details would be coming out on how they might be engaged. So this was explained in the letters. And as well, I can just tell you now that there is an intention to have stakeholder engagement. So, of course, these are very valuable community partners of ours, and they will remain so, and they will get to speak to the strategy on aging, and as this invitation would go to anyone with an interest. Thank you.
Thank you to the Minister. I wanted to hear that, and I appreciate that. They are important stakeholders, and I know that you know that too. So, but back in September, when this idea was first brought about, and I'm quoting a news article here, the Premier came out and said they don't expect it to cost a lot of money. Since September the 10th, I guess it was, you've been working on this, but still, I guess I got to go back to the money here again. It's coming from the Home First budget. We don't expect it to have a lot of money, but it's been since September. We just put out a budget in early February. I don't know. I don't know if people do this in this building. Can you ballpark it? Can you spitball? Tell us any idea how much these per diem's not going to be much. I mean, is it talking thousands, tens of thousands? Through the chair, of course.
I believe the question was around the cost for the council to exist, basically. And I just want to remind the member opposite to the chair that these are volunteers on the council, and it's only the co-chairs, the two co-chairs, that would receive a small per diem for meeting days. And so it's quite minor, and it's very similar to other agencies, boards, and commissions, so it would be their expenses related to coming to meetings and a per diem for those days, and very much in line with the way the practice has been always for such agencies, boards, and commissions.
Through the chair to the minister, thank you very much. No, I understand that there's only going to be per diems, and that's great. Just trying to nail down the number, just because we've been working on this, you guys have been working on this since September, and we had a budget, and it seems to me if we've done these committees in the past, and goodness knows we have committees. We have committees and committees and committees, and as I said the other day, if the door squeaked, we would have a committee to study why the door was squeaking. It seems to me we would have a pretty good understanding of how much this would cost us. But anyway, if we don't, we don't. How deep will the responsibilities go into this? Are they to the Council on Aging? They're to give suggestions to the minister, the deputy minister, and such. They're not involved in policy making. They're just involved in suggestions to. And what's the realm? Is it anything and everything to do with seniors? And at what age does that start? Because I'm getting close, and I need to know.
Maybe it's appropriate that I just clarify what the mandate of the council will be. So it is actually mandated to guide the development of an aging strategy to address both short-term, which might be 1 to 3 years, short-term sustainability, and also long-term, so we could think 10 years or more. Transformational change, which I suggested even in my introductory remarks is overdue, so it's very welcomed. And we want this change to reflect the underlying philosophy that envisions a province where seniors are active and engaged in their communities, and where people of all ages, young and old, are treated with dignity and respect, and where strategic investments and partnerships support and enable healthy and active living throughout the life course. This is an aging strategy. And where the right cares and supports and services are available to these individuals in a system that is responsive and integrated and sustainable, and really represents a seamless continuum of care, allowing for transitions back and forth as required. So the council will be asked to recognize in the development of this strategy the challenges that are facing the province. So some of these are short-term or more urgent even, while also addressing the need for the long-term changes that are needed to transform the system. So they're intended to act basically as, or the strategy is intended to be a framework that'll guide our approach to aging in New Brunswick. So the council will help us to develop this framework or blueprint or roadmap to get to a vision that seniors in New Brunswick and people as we age have these experiences, and that we have excellence in aging. So the scope of the strategy is to reach beyond government services and public policy so that we'll frame the roles and responsibilities of those even outside of government. So they will even bring some ideas to the responsibilities of all stakeholders, including individuals and families, communities, service providers, researchers, business, and nonprofit organizations. So it'll reach beyond to just care, so the care continuum and the provision of services, to be thinking of other aspects of aging, like health and wellness, family and social life, community participation, lifelong learning, employment, income, housing, food security, because all of these impact people's experiences in aging. And as they impact the individuals, it impacts our society as a whole. So again, we had tremendous response, and we have a great team under great leadership, and I look forward to working collaboratively with this council, which will also be working with the community partners that have to be part of this new roadmap. Thank you.
I don't want to make you think, through the chair to the minister, I don't want to make you think that I'm doubting the chairs or the co-chairs or any of the people you've suggested, really. I'm sure the chairs who you spoke quite a bit about are outstanding. But when you talk about a mandate that big, and you went on a little bit about the framework beyond government and responsibilities and recognizing challenges and transformational change and active living, healthy living, it seems even more odd to me that you would not invite, once again, a representative from the New Brunswick Association of Nursing Homes or the Federation of Seniors or the Nurses Association or the New Brunswick Medical Society. That seems bizarre when you're talking about the mandate that you are giving this council. It's broad-reaching. It is, quite frankly, a massive mandate, it would appear to me. Not to have some professionals who are used to dealing with this on a daily basis. Anyway, can you explain to me, I'm sorry, you said we were long overdue for transformational changes, and I'd like to know exactly what you mean by transformational changes.
Thank you for mentioning the transformational change that we're hoping to achieve here, because it is a big task. And a lot of the stakeholders that you did mention, or that the member opposite mentioned, Mr. Chair, are either, well, first of all, they're all going to be invited to continue to be our partners in the development of this strategy on aging. These perspectives that many of these bring are in fact part of the council as well. But the transformational change, I believe that the question was asking, what do we see as this transformational change? Well, I'd like to say none of us are really hoping when we get older that we're going to go to an institutional level of care. None of us really want to do this. As much as possible, we have been told by seniors, and I know this is what I want for myself, because as the member opposite said, we're all aging too, and we have family members who are aging, and what we want is for people to be able to stay at home and in their community as long as possible. And in order to do this, we need to have the services and supports needed by these aging individuals to be there for them when they need them and at the appropriate levels that are needed. So as we have these ideals of what we want to achieve for excellence in aging, where people are aging in place, where the supports and services are there as they're needed, and when we have reliability and stability of a work sector, and where we have seniors who are still engaged as they used to be, and who are valued and respected and have choice and autonomy. In order to get to this, we have to have a plan, and we have to find a map to get to this vision. So it's transformational change when we commit ourselves to some of the already good work that we've started with the Home First strategy and the wellness strategy. So if we think of even young people getting into habits of healthy living and active living, and this carries through to all developmental phases of life. And if we can think intergenerationally about how it's valuable to have time together intergenerationally, and how it's important for one generation to respect and know their older generation and vice versa. So these are all aspects of person's wellness and person's dignity. And so this is the kind of transformational change, to have people at home and in their community, not in institutions. Now we know that always there will be times that people need high levels of medical care. These we want to still be available, but we also need to make sure that we have a system where those needs can be met in a sustainable way. For example, we don't want people going to hospital if we can prevent entrance to the hospital or to higher levels of care. So if we can prevent, that's what our focus is. So we need to build up the services and supports in the community. But when someone has to go to the hospital for an acute care incident, for example, as much as possible, we want to be able to bring this person back home and in the community as quickly as possible with the associated services and supports they need to get 100% well again and integrated back into the society. So this is the kind of transformational change that we're seeking, and we're looking for help with the council to develop a strategy to achieve this transformational change. And we know some things are, we'd also be following the recent initiatives in the alternative level of care plan that is being jointly worked on with Social Development and the Department of Health. And so these kinds of initiatives will help us to move to community and home supports, which is where we know is the best quality of life. That's the kind of transformational change that we're seeking, and that I feel pretty confident that our council members, under the great leadership, will help us to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you to the Minister through the Chair. So you're doing home first then? Okay. That's what we'll do then, home first. Through the department that you have, you thought that this was necessary. I mean, you've got a lot of experience over there. A lot of people have worked in the government, have seen this system through, maybe even some of the Home First system, the wellness plan, all that. I assume some of them worked on that as well. Yet you still need the Aging Council, and you know what? I'm a big fan of hearing from the voters as well. So that's a good thing, I guess. It seems to me that once you were elected, you've told us a number of times that you were elected and that you were elected to govern. It makes me wonder why we need this council. You will ultimately have the final say on any of the recommendations of the council as Minister of Social Development. If they come forward with recommendations, you have the final say as to what happens. Is that right? Through the chair.
The council, of course, will report to myself as Minister of Social Development and the Minister of Health. But of course, we would never autocratically make decisions without listening to the voices of lived experience, of professional expertise, and of evidence-based research. And so these are the perspectives that we have had to go out and seek to inform us, because of course we can't be everything. And I very much value the people that have come forward to speak to this. And we've got a lot of work that we can already begin with. So we've got, as was mentioned, the Home First strategy, philosophy, and approach that we're committed to, the wellness strategy, the great evidence-based data that has come from a number of forums over the last few years and gatherings of people in the medical society, of the various community partners that and researchers and academics that have informed the vision. So now it's a matter of working collaboratively with a group of individuals and coming up with the strategy. And yes, they do report to the two ministers, and but again, we need this council. We can't do this on our own without the council. And again, I want to highlight the importance and the innovativeness and the what I would call the courage of going forward with a long-term strategy and vision, because this is what's needed. Without this long-term vision and attempt to make a strategy for excellence in aging, we may never achieve the vision. We need the roadmap. We need the partners at the table. So they'll be very much valued in us achieving success in this vision.
Thank you, Minister, through the chair. And I agree with listening to the voices. And September the 10th, last year, you did listen to the voices. And the Premier and the Minister, Mr. Chair, announced that they would reverse the seniors. I'm sorry, Minister, we always call it the asset grab, and I know you don't call it that, the seniors plan for the extra money in nursing home. And you did listen to the voices, and we thank you for that. I think I thanked you then. If I didn't, I'm thanking you now publicly. Thank you for listening to the voices and reversing that decision. I guess I want to make sure that if something happens and your Council on Aging comes forward and says, no, this is a good idea, that you'll still listen to the voices and say, no, we turned our back on that. We're not going after the seniors' assets again. And I want to know that you, the Premier, that your department, that whoever, where it's the final say is on who's going to make the decisions. And I want to know, I guess, that the voices will be heard in that case in particular.
In response to the question presented, perhaps I could just say, at the end of the day, there will be a strategy on aging that's been very well informed by the members of the newly appointed Council on Aging and the community partners and government, under the direction of the two ministers of Health and Social Development.
To the Minister, through the Chair, does that mean that if the Council on Aging comes back and says that there should be a seniors asset grab, that the government will do that?
A short, clear, concise answer to that would be the government has made it very clear that this has been taken off the table. Thank you.
Through the Chair, thank you, Minister. Appreciate that. The department's going to invest an additional $5.5 million in the province-wide expansion of the rapid rehabilitation reablement. Is this similar to the rapid rehabilitation or the rapid response part of the extramural program? There was 9 nurses cut with that, and I'm wondering if those 9 nurses are going to this program, I guess.
I'll explain what the Rapid Rehabilitation and Reablement Initiative is. So it's one of the components of the Home First strategy. It's an integrated intermediate care service of both rehabilitation and reablement across health and long-term care. And it's part of the creation of a continuum of care that has home-based care as the goal, and it ensures maximum utilization of home care services. So the intention is that through this initiative, eligible people who would be commonly ALC patients being discharged and seniors who are at risk at home, they would be provided with 14 to 21 days of intensive rehabilitation, which might be occupational therapy, physical therapy, and respiratory therapy, according to the discharge plans, of course, with rehabilitation support personnel and home support. And this is so that we can maximize the potential for recovery. And so once that potential has been achieved, then the individuals would receive anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks of reablement services, which would not be the same as the rehabilitative, but this would help them to adapt to everyday living independently again. And this helps to recover with a permanent impairment through relearning, for example, maybe how to do basic things like wash, dress, toilet, etc. And so these services would be delivered by trained home support workers. So the goal of the project would be to integrate existing EMP and home support services so that we can provide these rehabilitation and reablement services in the community. And as I explained earlier, it's part of that transformational change that we want to see, to have people at home and in the community as much as possible. So the idea would be here, in line with the ALC plan, the Alternative Level of Care plan, would be to reduce the average length of stay in the hospital for this population and ensure that New Brunswickers get the right care and the right supports at home. And that's, in a nutshell. I could go into more detail if you need, or answer more questions on it, but that's basically what the Rehabilitation and Reablement Initiative is.
So is it an extended arm of extramural? Sorry, through the chair to the minister. Is it a part of the extramural program or a separate program altogether? And where does the money? Well, we'll worry about that one first.
The Rehabilitation and Reablement Program is one of the Home First initiatives, which is led by the Department of Health, but is a joint partnership with the Department of Health and the Department of Social Development. But I just want to be clear that it's got nothing to do with the Rapid Response Program. Thanks.
Thank you to the minister through the chair for that. Next question. What is the current mix of nursing staff at nursing homes? We're talking about registered nurses, LPNs, personal support workers, stuff like that. What's the mix on that?
Currently, nursing home residents receive 3.1 hours of care per day, of which 2.89 hours are provided by registered nurses, licensed practical nurses, and resident attendants. The remaining hours are fulfilled by the work of rehabilitation and administrative staff. And I could add that nursing homes are inspected to ensure that they're providing 2.5 hours of the total 3.1 hours at a staffing ratio of 20% RNs, 40% LPNs, and 40% RAs. If this answers the question, thank you.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Minister, through the chair. Is there any consideration of reducing the mix at all to any other percentages?
Okay, to respond to the member opposite's question about any directional alterations or any potential alterations to levels of care, it raises a good opportunity for me to explain a little bit about another one of the initiatives under Home First, which is, again, one that I mentioned in my introductory remarks, commonly and somewhat confusing sometimes referred to as the MDS technology. But basically, this is a technology tool used by nursing homes to help us to develop with the collection of data so that we can make evidence-based decisions. It helps us to develop person-centered care plans. So if we're moving in a direction, it's to move in evidence-based directional areas where the tools themselves will help us to provide maybe more care to some residents, and if need be, less care or the same level of care in particular areas for other residents. So This will help improve the level of care to nursing home residents, and I'm really happy to say that training is ongoing right now in 10 nursing homes on using this technology, and our plan is to have this rolled out by the end of the year. And again, this improves the service because we can now make some better decisions to target where the needs are and make resident-centered, customized, individual-centered care plans. This will also help the department to manage budgets better, and it will help nursing homes to manage their budgets better. So I think overall, this is a good move, and we're looking forward to making such decisions based on evidence. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, through the chair. Sorry, what does MDS stand for? That's a company name? Or?
Yes, I know it's confusing. I myself have to keep saying, what does it stand for? We get so used to using these letters. Minimum data set. That's why I commonly referred to it as a tool, a technology tool used in nursing homes, but it stands for minimum data set. It's an assessment tool. Thank you.
So that takes me back to the original question. Is the minister considering reducing the mixed of registered nurses to LPNs to personal support workers? Are you considering a change in those percentages, or do you plan to have it stay at, what was it, 20% RNs, 40% LPNs, and 40% personal support workers? Is that going to stay the same?
There is a new funding ratio that is targeted, which is 15% RNs, 20% LPNs, and 65% RAs. But I do wish to highlight, however, that this is simply a target or an anticipated general approach. And this is based on what are common practices in other jurisdictions. So it's an anticipated potential ratio, but the important thing here is that we are developing the capacity to collect data that will inform specifically not necessarily the same for everywhere, but that will inform specifically what the care needs are. So in the end, we will let evidence dictate what the ratios will be according to what is required by the individual residents and centers. Thank you.
Okay, you had mentioned other jurisdictions. In other jurisdictions, seniors' care is often under the Department of Health. Any movement in that? Are you going to move that way to follow other jurisdictions on that?
Thank you for the question through the chair. I just want to say that in New Brunswick, the Department of Social Development works very, very collaboratively with the Department of Health. And sometimes we might think that if something is residing in one department versus another, we might make all of our challenges go away. And I don't necessarily think that happens. In fact, all jurisdictions are looking at moving as much as possible toward home-based and community levels of care where we know we get better quality of service for individuals. And we work so collaboratively together here that that I don't see separate silos, and if anything, we're moving toward greater collaboration and greater services in the community and at home. So I don't see this as a direction.
Thank you, Minister. Through the chair. How many complaints of abuse did the department receive? We're still talking about nursing home services. How many complaints of abuse did the department receive last year?
the total number of all adult protection referrals or complaints ending December 31st for that year was 1,330.
Wow. I don't know what to say. That's just absolutely shocking. Through the chair to the minister, what's being done to reduce the number of complaints?
I just want to make sure that that the answer that I gave was clear in that that number was not just in nursing homes. That is all adult protection referrals, all adult protection referrals. And of course, not all complaints are substantiated either. And I want to, for example, last year, 42% of those were not substantiated. But I want to reiterate that referrals at a high number are good because we want people to identify any potential opportunities of abuse or lack of care, because it's very, very important to us that adults in vulnerable positions are protected, safeguarding seniors and adults with disabilities who are at risk of harm sits at the heart of what we do in this department. And even one case of abuse or neglect is one case too many. So all referrals are welcomed. And I want to say too, another initiative that we think will play a role in deterring and holding people accountable to excellence in care is the fact that we now publicize our inspection reports. So I'm very happy that we've become transparent about this. So if there are any cases, any incidents in this reported are going to be showing on our inspection reports. So very happy to be receiving referrals because this means the system is working. But not all referrals or complaints are substantiated. Okay? Thank you.
So we'll take a 5-10 minute recess. I call the meeting back to order. I recognize the member from Moncton Northwest.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To the Minister, through the Chair, I'm sorry, the number 1330 really threw me off. Minister, could you repeat your answer? What you're doing to reduce the number of abuse complaints? And I understand we want everybody complaining, and I understand that not all of them are justified, but is there something proactively being done to reduce the number of complaints?
I would like to say first that I agree. 1,330 complaints is high. And while on one hand, we'd like to receive no complaints because if there was never a problem, but on the other hand, then we'd worry that problems were not being reported. So we do want to know when there are any potential risks facing seniors or persons with disabilities, anyone who is open or at risk of harm for neglect or abuse. So, but I wanted to reiterate too that all these adult protection referrals don't just come from nursing homes, they come from all over the place, from homes, from community, and from care facilities. And another reason that the number looks so high is we have to remember too that the numbers of seniors and persons with disabilities is also higher. And we are living longer and we have more people in our care. And just aging in the community as well. So again, I want to reiterate that while one real case of abuse is one too many, or neglect or harm, we take all of these cases and all of these referrals very, very seriously. And so the question from the member opposite was more directed at what is it we're doing to address this. Well, first we want to make sure that all cases are continuing to be referred, but we're focusing as well on prevention. So prevention is the key. The first goal is to prevent. So we do this through education and training, and through having good policies and good protocols. So, for example, anyone who works with vulnerable persons, we want to make sure that there's the prior contact and criminal record check so that we can ensure that the programs and policies funded and or approved by social development establish and maintain practices that protect both children and vulnerable adults from being abused on any level, whether it's physically, sexually, emotionally, or financially. The policy also applies to both facilities and in-home services, and this includes a social development record check and a criminal record check on all new job applicants, and regular rechecks on existing employees. So these are some of the initiatives that are being undertaken. We've extended this service even to new nursing home applicants. So that's one of the things on the policy side that we're doing. As well, the New Brunswick Association of Nursing Homes, in conjunction with the federal government and the Provincial Department of Social Development, has developed and implemented an abuse prevention program with a focus on employees and the institutional setting for nursing homes. So these facilities, all of them, the different levels of care facilities, are regulated by legislation, and they're approved and inspected on an annual basis. So abuse and neglect prevention and identification is also a component of even home support agency contact by workers. And it's an important component of the training programs that these workers receive. So those are some policy initiatives toward prevention. There are also some other things that we can do to prevent, and we are doing. So training on the types of abuse and neglect, how to recognize some of the indications of abuse and neglect, learning more about the profiles of the victims so that we can understand behaviors that might be different, that might be indicators of some problems, including factors that might even warn us of some potential abuse or harm that might happen in advance. So quite a bit on training and education, on providing good policy, good protocols, and of course, when we can't prevent, the next thing we want to do is to be able to intervene early, because early intervention will help us to learn again and try to prevent this and deter this from happening in other cases. So again, one case of substantiated abuse or neglect or any harm of any kind to any vulnerable person is one case too many. And I, as much as anyone in New Brunswick, would wish that we would never have a case like this. But it does happen sometimes. And so the best we can do is as much as possible, try to prevent. And when we can't, we intervene early. And we're constantly looking. Even the new MDS tool that I had talked about will help us with data that we can best meet the needs in nursing homes at this level. And the better we get our other pieces in the community and at home through the Home First initiatives and invest in the training and education with all workers in the community, the more we can prevent this from happening in the future. And this is definitely a priority for this department. Thank you.
To the chair, to the minister, thank you. I believe you. I believe it is a priority, and don't know what to say. Should we go back a little bit to the ratios? When I originally started this line of questioning, I was talking about the 20% RNs, 40% LPNs, 40% personal service workers, and then you're talking about it going to 15, 20, and 65. What's going to happen to the 5% of the nurses and the 20% of the LPNs? Will they be found jobs within the existing system somewhere, Department of Health? What's going to happen there?
It might be helpful for the member opposite to hear that the nursing home sector is actually anticipating a change in the staffing mix, and they themselves submitted a proposed staffing model to the Department of Social Development, and that was endorsed by all nursing homes last fall. And individual nursing homes will be engaged in planning the implementation of the new staffing mix in their homes. But I might also add that it's probably premature to anticipate any 1% reduction or anything in the requirement for nurses, because as I also mentioned earlier, the MDS technology, as it's rolling out this year, will require extra nursing requirements to collect and analyze the data, which identifies resident-centered care plans. So we may require more nurses. And the nice thing is that evidence collected with the technology will help us to define the right mix, and this is what we're looking forward to having. And as well, I could say that it's likely that the smaller centers will not be impacted at all. But again, it's a little too soon to anticipate. You know, there's also natural attrition. So it's a little soon to even anticipate anyone losing any jobs. I just think it is.
Through the chair to the minister, so why would the smaller centers not be impacted at all? Sorry, I don't understand that.
The short answer to that really is because even though they're small, they still have to have a nurse 24/7. Yeah.
Understood. Thank you very much. It was also my understanding that personal service workers is a shortage in the province now. Is that being taken into account? And I understand that we're in preliminary days here, but I assume that's being taken into account, is it?
I'd like to thank the member opposite for raising, in fact, one of the challenges that we are facing is to have a stable, well-trained workforce in the human service sector, and in the whole human service sector, actually, everywhere. And so that's why the Department of Social Development has been working on, under the auspices of the Human Services Coalition, a working group, and with funding provided by post-secondary education, training, and labor. We've begun a study of the sector. And one of the pieces of this study is that we want to review existing wages and benefit packages, as well as job descriptions, job titles, educational requirements, experiential requirements for human service practitioners. We want to invest in training. We know that it's important to be able to attract good workers, but we also know it's important to invest in the worker so that they feel adequately trained and adequately supported to be in jobs where there is a career path for them. So we are looking at establishing a career path, or helping to facilitate the making of a career path for these workers so that the agencies can have reliable workers and properly trained workers. So with regard to resident attendance, we're one of the few provinces in Canada that does not have standardized training requirements for resident attendance right now. And nursing homes in rural areas have challenges finding staff with formal training, just like some other specialized care or special care homes have challenges retaining support workers. So there are wide variations in the curriculum of the training programs for RAs offered by community colleges and private sector colleges. And we recognize that all of these support workers play a very valuable role in the whole continuum of care for seniors and persons with disabilities. So we are recognizing this, and we're undergoing some research and investment in this sector so that we can have a stable workforce that is very much trained and skilled to be able to provide the best care for the residents and for the seniors, even at home, to feel safe and secure and properly cared for. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, through the chair. You mentioned the working group. What's that? Who's on that now?
The Human Service Coalition Steering Committee has been created, and it's made up of one representative from each of the community partner associations, also an assistant deputy minister from our Department of Social Development, an assistant deputy minister from PEDAL, Post-Secondary Education, Training and Labor, an assistant deputy minister from Health, and also ad hoc members such as those from the Department of Finance as required. So the coalition includes the Association of New Brunswick Family Support Provider Agencies, the New Brunswick Residential Association, the New Brunswick Association of Supported Services and Employment, and the New Brunswick Special Care Home Association, as well as the New Brunswick Home Support Association. So these are the community partners that are part of this review and initiative. Thank you.
And, sorry, they're the people, this working group is actively working on the shortage, rather, of PSWs in the province and training and all the rest of that? Okay.
Yes, they're working on all of these things, trying to make the labor sector stable and strong. Thank you.
Good. All right. Can we go to page 9 of your hymn book. Ordinary account expenditures. Can the minister confirm the overall increase in department expenses, difference being some $43,906,000 as I see it?
May I ask for the question to be clarified? We're not sure what we're answering.
Sorry, probably my fault. I've got a lot of papers on the go too. Page, total expenses is what I'm looking at. Total expenses. I want to say under page 9, but I've taken photocopies. No, that isn't it. Yeah, it'd be page 16. Main estimates, ordinary counts. The estimate for 2016-2017 is $1,164,420, or holy mackerel, $1,164,423,000, and the difference from the revised last year to this year is going to be almost $44 million. I'm looking for a confirmation in that increase in department expenses.
The budget for 2015-16 was $1,113,693,000. The budget for 2016-17 is $1,164,423,000. So that means the budget has increased by $50,730,000, or 4.5% from 2015-16.
Except that the, through the chair, except that the revised 2015-26 took it up to $1,120,517,000, right? I just want to clarify that.
Yes.
I almost said, don't worry about it, it's here. Okay. But we have to ask, don't we? What's the special purpose account for? What is it? What do we do with that? Special purpose account, page 19. Last year we spent 18 million on it. This year it's going to be 14,489,000.
Mr. Chair, in response to the member's question, the special purpose account was put in place first in 1997 as part of the social housing agreement to protect against high interest rates, inflation and operating costs for our social housing programs, and also financial difficulty for nonprofit housing groups. A predetermined amount of revenue flows to the province each year under the agreement, and the province incurs expenditures in our ordinary budget, and CMHC matches those expenditures with the CMHC revenue being credited to ordinary revenue. So since that amount of total revenue is predetermined for each year under the social housing agreement, any revenue that's not recorded as ordinary revenue flow to the special purpose account as special purpose account revenue. So on the expenditure side, there is a requirement that funds must be used for the programs included under the social housing agreement. Housing repair expenditures do not qualify.
Through the chair to the minister, thank you. So why the difference in the revised? We had 18 million, we only spent 14,381,000. I say only, my goodness. But can you explain the difference between the revised and the estimate on that one then? If this is it just simple math? Is it just straight ahead math and you get this much because of da-da-da?
Over time, this will continue to decline as mortgages are paid out.
Chair to the Minister, thank you. Let's go to page 14 once again, main estimates. I want to talk about the family fund. Why have we brought about the family fund, the families fund?
Helping families has been one of the government's top 3 priorities, and the Families Fund was created to ensure that we make strategic investments into initiatives that support the success of New Brunswick families. So through this fund, government will invest nearly $140 million to support children, parents, and seniors across New Brunswick. It's really an attempt to have more focused management of this funding, whether it's through new or existing programs, so that it can allow us to better coordinate programs to the reality of New Brunswick families. It should have an impact more directly on the family's needs. The Families Fund will focus the management of new and existing investments from a variety of departments. For example, an investment of $75 million to support low and middle income New Brunswickers through the HST credit. Another example, investments from the Families Fund will be used to implement early intervention strategies outlined in the literacy strategy, which will be introduced later this spring. The fund will support seniors through the low-income seniors benefit and the New Brunswick Seniors Home Renovation Tax Credit. The Home Energy Assistance Program and the Low-Income Efficiency Program will be funded through the Families Fund. The Healthy Babies, Healthy Families Program, the Immunization Program, and the free eye exams for 4-year-olds will all be funded through this new fund. So again, it's an attempt to assure that we make strategic investments into initiatives that support the success of New Brunswick families.
There's a lot from social development there. Who's the minister in charge of the funds?
Details on the lead for the management of this fund will be forthcoming, but there are a number of departments involved in this initiatives that all invest in the well-being of New Brunswick families.
Through the chair to the minister. Minister, this is a fund worth almost $140 million. Money's laid out here, and we don't know what minister is in charge of the dispersion, who's taking responsibility from it. Is that what I understand?
This family fund represents the first step in our efforts as a government to collaborate on our initiatives to invest in families. And so we would know in more detail what our pieces would be, but this is the first step, and more details will be coming out in future. But it is important that we do collaborate with one another so that we can get the best return on our investments, and we can not duplicate, and we can understand how we can best benefit families. So that's what this is intended to do. Thank you.
Collaboration, thank you, Minister, through the chair. Collaboration is always a wonderful thing, and it's always needed. But I'll finish this for now, at least, with my thought that it's broken down here into finances and health and justice and a lot of social development, the child tax benefit credit, the low-income seniors benefit. I know you know these things, but anyway, for the record, home energy assistance program, low-income efficiency program, New Brunswick seniors home renovation tax credit, youth engagement services, the free eye exams, the offset of adoption expenses, all of these, plus the other finance, the HST credit for low and middle income families. These are all broken down, and it comes out to $139,745,000, but we don't know what minister is in charge of it. That to me is unacceptable, but that is it for me for now, Mr. Chair. Dorothy's going to take over.
Would you like to react, Minister, or no? No, okay. I now recognize the member for St. John Lancaster.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Welcome to the Minister and to our staff. Thank you very much for giving us the information we're requesting. Just very briefly, this may be more of a comment to the Minister, Mr. Chair, but I want to go back to adult protection and the numbers that we were hearing from. And just recently in my constituency, we had a situation in a senior's residence, and I found it interesting that the residents who lived in this complex, none of them knew how they could call adult protection to support a neighbor. And so we've arranged through the regional office to have, for lack of a better word, a little afternoon seminar for the residents of this senior complex to tell them about what adult protection is, and that, there's confidentiality in placing those phone calls if you have a concern. And I just think that's a tremendous gift that we can give our seniors, to give them a little peace of mind. And I don't know if we have a budgeted amount for educating the public or for doing that. I know how much social workers do in their day, and how little time there might be for something like this, but I wonder if there are any kind of programs or initiatives that maybe could educate our senior population just a bit better.
I'd like to thank the member opposite for that good point and that good question, because it is indeed a priority for us to be able to reach out and get information to people to know how they can be protected and how they can be safe and secure. And our staff at Social Development do go out and speak to a variety of groups, but it's usually upon request, and they are available all the time to do this, whether at the regional office or at central office. But also there are a variety of community partners that do this on a regular basis as well. But one of the things that I would add that we're looking forward to that will be more proactive will be when we get our senior navigator component of the Home First fully rolled out. This will be enabling us to be proactive in reaching out with prevention, more of the focus. So thank you for raising that. It is very important.
Thank you to the Minister, through you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to shift a little bit. When the clerk read out the numbers for the budget, there was a child and youth budget of $123,483,000. Can you tell me if the foster parent program is included in that budget, or does it come out of another pocket?
Yes, it is included in this, Mr. Chair.
Thank you to the Minister. Can you tell me if that's an increase or decrease from the 2015-16 budget?
For the foster family piece, there is no change from last year to this year.
And thank you. Could the Minister just clarify if the $123,483,000, is that an increase or is it that level?
The budget is decreased by $1,282,000, or 1% from 2015-16. It will not affect the services that are delivered to the children and families. And the reason for this is that there have been a number of improvements made in child welfare over the last few years. And for example, the department has redesigned the child protection system. We've introduced family group conferences, child protection mediation, immediate response conference, family enhancement services, and the structured decision-making model of assessment so that we can improve services to children and their families. And there's also a renewed focus on permanency through adoption. So in addition, the department continues to work to develop a kinship care model to supplement the foster care system when children need out-of-home care. The redesign of the system has included the addition of 59 positions to enhance the services provided to the most vulnerable children in New Brunswick. All of these initiatives have resulted in families being better equipped to provide for children in care. As a result of more families being able to safely care for their children, there has been a steady decrease in the number of children in care and caseload numbers over the last few years, as the new initiatives have enabled families to provide better for their children's safety and to do so more quickly than before. Example, in 2007-8, there were on average 1,601 families receiving services on any given month. But as of December 2015, there were 1,139 families receiving services through the Child Protection and Family Enhancement Service programs. That's a reduction of almost 29%. In 2007-8, again, there was an average of 20 children in care on any given month, but as of December 2015, there were 774 children in care. So this represents a reduction of 41%. Of course, what this does is allow more children to remain safely in their homes, and that is a significant step toward assisting these children. Thank you.
Thank the minister very much for that, Mr. Chair. She's getting into where I'm kind of going, so I appreciate that very much. So let's start with some basic numbers then. So children in foster care, which maybe you've just given me that number of 774. Is that what we have in foster care today?
We currently have 486 children in foster care.
Thank the minister for that information. Could the minister tell me how many children we have in what we call kinship arrangements that are living with other family members?
To the member opposite, through the chair, there are approximately 70 children in kinship arrangements at the present time.
With regards to budget, are there monies allocated to kinship support, to family members who kind of stepped up to the plate to help out take in a child? Is there a budget for that? Is it under the foster care system budget? That kind of information is what I'd like to ask.
To answer the member opposite's question, yes, there are provisions in the budget for kinship care arrangements, and it comes from the overall child welfare budget, and the provisions are very similar to what is provided with foster families.
Thank you to the Minister for that answer, Mr. Chair. She probably knows I'm going to ask this now that we've gone here, but I'd like to get it on record. So in March of 2010, the Sean Graham government passed an act to amend the Family Services Act. And this act was passed by the legislature and not proclaimed. And it's really only been the last year or so that I've understood what this act actually entailed. And hopefully I would have done something about it before this, had I known about it. But I'd like to understand if maybe, to ask perhaps if maybe the government has any intentions on proclaiming this act. I don't think it goes far enough, but I think it's a very good step in the right direction in what we need to do to support families with who are taking this big step in their lives.
The sections of Chapter 8, which relate to kinship, were not proclaimed because it was determined that families would be better served if my department carried out a comprehensive review of the existing Children's Residential Services Regulation 91-170. A new regulation operationalizing children's placement facilities will provide better options for children under a continuum of care ranging from kinship services to the transfer of guardianship. And while this important work is being done, so in the meantime, the department has implemented an interim policy, and this provides kinship services to families as an alternative to foster care. And that's why we have 70 families currently in the care of kin as of December. So the interim services policy has enabled these children who might otherwise have come into my care and be placed with strangers to remain instead within their extended family group. So just to go a little further with this, the department has remained very committed to implementing the kinship care model, and the outstanding provisions of Chapter 8, an act to amend the Family Services Act, will be proclaimed as soon as the necessary legislative amendments have been completed, but will continue to abide by the interim policy in the meantime. So it is hoped that we'll be able to bring this further to introduce it in the fall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's welcome news. I wonder if the minister, in talking about the new regulation 91.170, if that regulation is available, if I could receive a copy of that, or the committee could receive a copy of that?
Through the chair, I just would like to advise the member opposite that this is publicly available now.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, to the minister. So the interim policy, and I apologize, I know you've just stated it, but could you just please explain to me again how that interim policy works, maybe from, from the time that the kinship arrangement is being arranged and to what the process is?
Through the chair to the member opposite, I want to clarify that the more comprehensive regulation changes have not held up our ability to move forward with the interim policy on the process to use the kinship model approach for children so that they can be in care of family members instead of strangers. And so the process really is somewhat like it is with the foster process. So a child is identified as requiring care, and then we make an effort to identify any significant others that might be able to be the persons to provide the care for the child. And of course, at that point too, we will do the normal checks, background checks, police, financial checks to make sure that this is a suitable person to provide the care for the child. And then, of course, the child gets all of the other benefits that the foster child would receive, so the health card and the financial support. And so really, it's in the best interests of the child. In the end, when the full comprehensive service is available, it will only expand upon this and make it even better.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, to the Minister, I really appreciate this information and may follow up with you and or staff with regards to some cases I've been dealing with in St. John for the last 2 to 3 years. It doesn't sound as cheery as this does. And so I'm sure that there are cases where things don't go the way we think they should, and there's always things that we need to follow up on. But that's why this has become such a focus for me, because I've seen where there have been gaps and where the system has not worked, I believe, the way that you've described, in which I would love for it to work this way every time. So I appreciate the Minister's answers, and I know that the member of the third party has some time now for the rest of the day, and I just want to thank the Minister and her staff for their answers, and I appreciate it very much.
Oh, sorry. My apologies. Was distracted. I now recognize the leader of the third party.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon through you to the Minister and staff. Mr. Chair, I just want to start off with this saying how pleased I am that there are 30 additional portable rent supplements now for the coming year. Mr. Chair, that's a significant step forward, and I'm hoping that the Minister is able to keep up the momentum, and we'll see additional portable rent supplements in the coming years as well. Mr. Chair, why this is so important is, in my writing, and perhaps it's the same for others, but certainly we keep track of constituents' concerns being brought to my office, and Mr. Chair, number one, topping them all is affordable housing. And in many dimensions around affordable housing, but certainly one of them that sticks in my mind is a constituent who has multiple disabilities and has been on the verge of being evicted from her home, needed help with rent, was doing everything she possibly could do to stay in her apartment, which well suited her disabilities. One of her disabilities was hearing, and so she stopped buying batteries for her hearing aid to try and scrape every little bit of money she could together to continue to try and pay her rent. Took out a book from the library to try and learn lip syncing. It just shouldn't happen. So the additional portable rent supplements are a huge piece of good news, and I want to thank the Minister for the work she did to make sure those additional supplements are there, and I know they will make a real difference to people. That's just 30 more. It's not a lot, but it will make a difference in people's lives, so that's great news. I do want to ask a number of questions, and I'll start at a sort of the higher level around the estimates themselves. I'm hoping this wasn't responded to already, but in looking at the reduction in the budget for child welfare and youth services overall of about $1.3 million, the Minister explained that that was largely due to the reduction in caseload, fewer children in care, which is all positive. At the same time, the budget for corporate services increased by roughly the same amount, $1.36 million. And I'm wondering through you, Mr. Chair, whether the Minister can explain, and maybe it's re-explaining for me, about the increase in the budget for corporate services.
Thank you for the question through the chair. I will happily explain the increase to the corporate, and it's basically two things. One is for the additional positions to transfer to a new housing system. It is 2016, and we're moving from a paper-based system to a technology-based system. And so this will enable us to be able to respond to the needs for housing in a better way and to manage these needs. The other piece is strictly wages, and those are non-discretionary things that respond to collective agreement wages and benefits.
That's clear. I appreciate that. I want to move on to, let me be, sticking with child welfare and youth services for a minute. So there's a regulation, this is dealing with the provisions of the last round of amendments to the Child Welfare Act. You talked earlier about kinship care model, and that looks like it's going to be, there's an interim policy and there's a regulation in development to further that, which is good news. The other piece that wasn't proclaimed at the time, to date, was dealing with the problem of children who are bouncing back and forth between care and parents over an extremely long period of time, much to the detriment for the child. Now, obviously, we want children to be with their parents, but in some cases, sadly, it's not possible. But the way the system has been set up, it's permitted that to go on sometimes too long. And so I'm just wondering if this regulation is also looking at addressing that.
Yes, I'd like to thank the leader of the third party for the question. Just for one thing, I'd like to say, yes, we're addressing this. This will be part of this regulation, and through the chair, I'd like to say that you and I have discussed this before as problematic, and this will be part of the new changes.
That's indeed heartening. Thank you for that. Okay, going down through the estimates, transitional assistance and extended benefits are decreasing, their budget's decreasing by $6 million. I wonder if, through you, Mr. Chair, whether the Minister can provide an accounting of where those cuts are occurring in this large area of transitional assistance and extended benefits.